Well, live now to South Africa, where I'm joined from Johannesburg by South African reporter Debora Patta, and here in the studio by Gareth A. Davies, the journalist who has known Oscar Pistorius for over a decade. Let's start with you, Debora. Thanks very much for coming on the programme again. You were again in court today. I'm intrigued by what you thought about Oscar Pistorius' demeanour throughout the day, which changed quite dramatically, didn't it?
Well, it did. You know, we've seen him vary throughout the days, depending on what evidence is being led, from sobbing uncontrollably to being a lot more calm. He was crying at points throughout the magistrate's ruling, particularly when he spoke about Reeva Steenkamp dying in his arms. But for the most part, he stared ahead, impassive, immobile, seeming as if, you know, there was nothing going through his head. Around him, his family showed a lot of emotion. And when that final ruling was read, his family, as you heard now in that report, shouted yes. There was hugs, there was prayers. Oscar still sobbing a little bit, but saying very little. Strange for an athlete who has stared down fear and faced so much in his life to be showing so little.
Well, let me put that point to Gareth. Gareth, you've known him for 10 years. I guess you're a friend of his, right? So, I mean, for someone who has to be so self-disciplined in his training to behave like this, what does that say about the man, and how's he going to cope now?
Well, I think he's obviously traumatised. You know, in his account, his affidavit of accounts, of the account of the events on the evening, he's made a terrible blunder in his life. And remember, this is a guy who I've known since he was 17 and grew into a man who became a poster boy for a whole movement, the Paralympic movement, who's already been in court cases where he's fought in the Court of Arbitration of Sport for the right to run against able-bodied runners, and he makes it to the Olympics, he makes it to the World Championships. As I say, he's the poster boy of the Paralympics. But at the same time, he's become this rich celebrity figure, and he's now living a nightmare. What was a fairy tale has become a nightmare. We could see anything from Oscar Pistorius, but right now he's traumatised. OK, Debora, it's a nightmare for him. It really is a nightmare, a much bigger nightmare for the family of the woman who's dead now. What do you think is going to happen? He's got several months before the real trial actually starts. His passport has been taken away, and intriguingly also, he's not been allowed to drink.
Yes, no alcohol, no banned substances. He can't go near a departure lounge. A bail of 1 million rand was posted, and he can't go back to the home where he shot his girlfriend, Reeva Steenkamp. He will move in with his uncle tonight, and in the next 3 months, prepare for his trial. And as Magistrate Naya pointed out, there are a lot of things about this case that are unbelievable. So he gets down to that kind of business. But as you correctly pointed out, there is a woman who is dead here, and that family continues to mourn. They are going to be wanting closure from this case as well. And as for the rest of South Africa, it perhaps gets on back to the business of being South Africa. How do we interpret this crime? Is it an accident saying something about crime statistics, or is it premeditated murder saying something about the obscene violence against women in our country?
Gareth, his passport has been taken away. He can afford the bail quite easily. What is it? 1 million rand. But there's no flight risk, is there, surely? No, there isn't. And obviously, to mention that as well, the guns have been taken away, and the pending licences have been taken away. There's no risk of him getting away, certainly not an aeroplane. One story he told me years ago, when he was on his way back from Iceland to Amsterdam, South Africa, where he'd been shooting with a shotgun before that journey. But is the real worry here his mental health? I think it could be. I think that is one of the problems with bail. He must be watched very closely. He's not going to flee anywhere. One of the peculiar things in the last couple of days, his coach saying he might get back to light training. I think that's very odd. Anyway, got to leave it there. Gareth Davies, thank you very much. Debora Patta, thanks to you as well.